All right. Thanks for joining All Things Division Three Soccer with Simple Coach and Jackie. That's Jackie right there. She's the boss of me. Really want to appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. I am super excited for today. This is the first of what I hope to be many interviews that I do with coaches. I'm calling it, well, my chief marketing officer is calling it Simple Coach to Coach, where I get a chance to just talk to Division three coaches. Doesn't matter whether they're head coaches, men's, women's. I'd like to do some assistant coaches that I have lined up. So this first one couldn't have turned out better. I mean, this is, I might as well retire well on top. Today I have the good fortune of being joined for the first ever Simple Coach to Coach by Connecticut College head coach Reuben Burk, who, as you all know, just won the 2021 national championship in grand style, I might add. So with that, Coach Burk, really want to say thank you for joining me today. This is really, really fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Equally excited.
Yeah. So this should be good. So I'm just going to start and we'll just roll with this. You know, it would probably be helpful. You're almost as young as me, maybe a little bit older, but I was just hoping you could sort of walk through your coaching journey. I mean, you're at a spot in your professional career and holy smokes, soccer career where it almost seems like this all perfectly aligned in a sort of crazy way.
Yeah. More than happy. Like most coaches, fell in love with the game playing. An amazing college soccer experience at Hobart and William Smith in upstate New York. A really terrific mentor in Sean Griffin, who I still stay in touch with on a weekly basis. I'd say about halfway through college, I knew that I wanted to be a soccer coach, whether it was youth or college. I knew that I wanted to. I knew that I wasn't going to play professional, so I knew that I wanted to stay involved in the game in a coaching capacity. Got a grad assistant job at Alfred, another Division III upstate New York school. Had an awesome experience working for two different coaches, Scott Miller and Matt Smith. Fortunate enough to get postseason experience in the Empire 8. And for there, went on to be a volunteer assistant at Division I, Holy Cross. I had a connection with the head coach, Marco Kuhlman, and the role grew into a second assistant, more or less full time. In Division I was certainly a great experience. Those 2 years really opened my eyes to the highest level college soccer, whereas before working with tremendous student athletes, but at the Division III level. And then decided to broaden my horizons, try to grow as a coach, live in a different part of the country, again, work in a different environment within college soccer. So I went as an assistant Division II in South Carolina to Newberry. Had a really productive year in the South Atlantic Conference. We made really good strides, most wins in a season, I think, in program history. A couple of the players that I worked with went on to play professional soccer, and always wanted to come back Northeast after spending some time there. And from my time recruiting at Holy Cross, I had gotten to know the head coach at Connecticut College, Ken Murphy, really well. Seemed like we were at every event together. And so when the assistant job opened, the NESCAC is really appealing. The program that Murph had built was really appealing. I thought there was a really high ceiling, and had already known and established a relationship with Murph. That certainly helped. And yeah, did I know Murph was going to retire? Absolutely not. And so I guess, every coach needs a little bit of luck and needs an opportunity that they can take a hold of. And just so fortunate that happened in 2019. And I'm still learning every day as a head coach, trying to continually figure out my style and how to communicate, how to recruit, how to implement a vision of how my team wants to play. But I think certainly what has helped me is get a little bit of knowledge from across the college landscape, from different divisions and different head coaches.
Yeah. That's interesting because I, in my sort of research over the last few months, it always seems to me like assistant coaches that I tend to see at the more predominant schools and soccer schools, that they stay there for a very, very long time. And so it's just interesting how you sort of bounced around, going from one place to another. That I think probably the Division I and Division II experience was probably really interesting. I think just because of the, it's a different game. I always look at the different levels, and I think it's a very different game depending on what you're looking at. So, hey, so let's dive in. So you've learned all this stuff. Let me just dive right into the coaching. This is something I always think about when with your team as a head coach. Are there certain things that are non-negotiable to you for your team? Again, I know attitude, and you got to come willing to work every day, but some coaches are very particular about that. I was wondering if you had anything.
Yeah, I suppose my quote unquote non-negotiables probably wouldn't be that much different from the vast majority of coaches out there. I think you want players to take ownership and responsibility for the fundamentals that are vital to making them successful. Punctuality, coachability, whether it's from a teammate, a peer, an upperclassman, someone on the coaching staff. Nowadays, youth players aren't always the most receptive to taking criticism, but I think when you're part of a program that has goals and ambitions, everyone within the program is competitive and wants the team to be successful. So, advice and criticism is going to be shared, and you have to be able to take that on board. The selflessness is a big non-negotiable, and that is portrayed in your attitude. But yeah, when you say coming to work every day, I think, what goes along with that is, willing to compete for the jersey or willing to compete for playing time. A non-negotiable is entitlement or thinking that things are going to be handed to you, but just the attitude of earning everything. And so, yeah, the non-negotiables: punctuality, coachability, and certainly competitiveness. I'd put up there, but again, I would assume that most college coaches that comes with the territory.
Yeah. So, just as an aside, you said earning it. Is that something that you watch every day? Or...
Yeah, for sure. I think our culture tried to operate things on a meritocracy. Regardless of age, regardless of what you did last season, regardless if you're an All-American or you're a brand new freshman to the program. Meritocracy is is your attitude, your quality, your coachability, and what you can do to make others better around you. And so assessing, the attitude, the tactical understanding, the value that a player can bring to the team on a daily basis is really important. And we talk to our guys all the time about having the attitude of next play. You really never know when you're going to be called upon. So if you have the next play mentality and you're always ready, you'll fit in and help out the team right away.
That probably goes a long way to keep the younger freshmen who are just coming on board, right? Keeping them competitive or getting them competitive just to get them just because they know that they have an opportunity to get on the field if they earn it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think we had one boy that wasn't able to travel with the team for the Final Four. But besides that freshman, we had six other freshmen that went to the Final Four, and three out of the 6 freshmen played in the national championship. So, again, it comes down to, are you ready? Have you earned it? Even if you didn't play in the last game, are you ready? Have you earned the minutes? Are you was your preparation in a place for the coaching staff to think that you would be successful come game time? And yeah, certainly from my perspective, I think it's advantageous to give first-year players an opportunity because you need experience, you need minutes to grow as a player and develop yourself. And as long as the attitude, preparation, and mentality is right, I think giving freshmen an opportunity is a good thing.
So speaking of mentality, you're king of the hill now, and I'm sure your guys know that they had an exceptional season, won the national championship. What are your concerns, or what are the things that you're doing from a mental perspective to make sure that your team comes back as hungry for a repeat? Because that to me is always the Achilles heel, right? Once you've won it, you don't. There's striving for it again. Just seems like routine at that point.
Yeah. I'd say a couple things, right? Like you can't control how many games you're going to win, and you can't control if you'll repeat as a national championship. So not getting caught up in we have to repeat. All you can do is control your preparation and, again, the team's collective mentality and core values and whatnot. So I'd say a couple of things. What we focus, this off season, we won't be focusing on, we have to be back at the national championship. We'll just be focusing on each individual and our collective style of play improvement. From a day-to-day basis, can we get better? Can we be better than we were yesterday? Can we be better than where we were last week? Through the off season, showing the guys films from the past season, what could we have done better? Where were our strengths? Can we continue that? Where were our weaknesses? How can we get better? So I think focusing on, specific parts of our game and improving, having a development plan for each player. Where are they at in my eyes? Where are they at in their eyes? How can we partner together to, raise their game and give them an even bigger role in the team next year? So just focusing on being a better version of ourselves versus, where are we going to be at the end of 2022? I think the other important thing is what we can control is internal leadership. So, hopefully the team shouldn't rely upon the coaching staff anymore. The vast majority of guys have the experience of going to a national championship, which is hugely beneficial. This offseason, what we need to do is, and again, not age related, not age dependent, but start to have some of the guys who we feel are ready and have earned it have bigger leadership roles within the team in terms of communicating to the team, setting up team meetings, running team meetings, onboarding the incoming freshmen, explaining to them the vision and the culture. So I think if we can have, a group of leaders ready to step up, and if we can keep improving as a team on a daily basis, hopefully that gives us a chance to be back to where we want to be. But yeah.
So I want to shift over to the season, if that's okay, or to the past season. And you play, for all intents and purposes, the best conference in the country, right? In the NESCAC. Your team is young. During preseason or just before preseason, you're sitting down and you're trying to think about where you want this team to go. Sort of, what were your expectations? I mean, for as much as coaches talk about, we expect to be, to win it, like that it's a little, to me, is a little grandiose. So I'm just curious to know sort of what did you think your team was capable of doing based on, especially considering that last year was a wash, right? Because of COVID, and so it's in that regard. Where did you think the team had potential to go?
Yeah, I think for any coach that's a very hard answer to predict at the beginning of the season. Why? Because you haven't had any adversity yet. You really find out what your team's potential and resolve is when you face very difficult teams or very difficult road games or places to go, or it's hard to predict how good my team would be when at the end of preseason we get shut down for 5 days by the school because of COVID. Yeah. So you're just at that point you're just taking it one day at a time.
Without going
but
crazy.
I think yeah, which I was for sure. I think what I was confident about is that we could be competitive in each game. What does being competitive in each game looks like? Giving every team that we faced, non-conference or conference, a real challenge in difficulty in them being successful. I feel like we can give every team we play a real good challenge and test themselves. But yeah, I mean, we lost the first game at Wheaton. They outplayed us. Definitely deserved the win. And my prediction, if you had a gun to my head, how well we would do for the season after that game, I wouldn't have predicted national championship. So it's real tough to tell at the beginning of the season. But I'd like to think as long as me and Coach Thornton are here and the administration at Con is still here, that Con can be a real tough challenge in any game that we play.
So you're preseason, you're putting together a bunch of pieces to try to get your team to play the way you want them to play. Was there any glaring spots where you thought that might be an issue for you? Like, I mean, right? Like scoring's can be a big issue for teams, no matter how good they are if they can't put the ball in the back of the net, right? Like,
yeah, scoring for sure. for the last couple of years, we've never had a goal scorer that has gotten double-digit goals. I don't even think we won the national championship and didn't even have a prolific goal scorer this year. And certainly, depth is really important. If your main forward does go down, do you have someone that can step up and give you confidence that goals are still possible? Yeah, goals are the highest commodity in soccer. Certainly a concern was a brand new back line. Graduate AJ Marcucci, MLS goalkeeper, Liam Donlin, all-region player, Freddie Stokes, captain, Anthony Aquadro, starting left back, and then Luke Stoneback. So literally our whole back five was gone after the 2019 season. So yeah, both things worried me. Scoring goals because we didn't have a prolific goal scorer, and a whole new back line. So, but I think you start with having a vision of the team. How do you want to play in each phase of the game? What does your ideal team look like? You get your hands on the players and work a lot on position specific and unit work, focus on the phases of play. And I think what I will say is, I think the team got a quick understanding of how to play together, and they quickly grasped throughout preseason and the beginning of the year, how ideally I'd like them to play. So they did a good job onboarding and learning and being coachable pretty quickly. I think that was the key for all the unknowns out there.
So at what point in the season did you start to think things were coming together and you thought that this team had the potential to go very far?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting question. When we beat Tufts at home during the regular season, I knew that it wasn't going to happen, but I knew it was possible that we could have postseason success. Obviously, Tufts, the defending national champion, and albeit we were at home, I felt like we played a very complete, holistic 90-minute game. The defending and the pressing was very good. The ball retention and the ability to create chances was very good. I think any team will probably say if you can beat the national champions, then you're hopeful. That spurs a lot of confidence that you can have postseason success as well. So,
all right. So let's move on to the Tufts games, right? Because this was
sure.
El Clasico all over again, right? Like you play them 3 times in a year. You win one, you draw one, or you win one, you lose one, and then you go to there in the NCAAs, and I mean, out of what I was surprised by the score of 5-4, but your first title is for the NESCAC, and you end up losing that. How did that impact the team?
Yeah, losing the NESCAC final definitely hurt and definitely stung. But again, complete credit to Tufts who deserved the win that game. Really did a good job defending, counterattacking. Tufts is a very good team on set pieces. So it stung. The chance to host a NESCAC championship and win a NESCAC postseason tournament for the first time in program history was right there, and you could touch it. Like it probably took a guys a day or the rest of the weekend to get over, but I think at the same time it only made us more hungry. And now we were going into the NCAA with a chip on our shoulder. I think I think good teams play with a point to prove, and as a coach, that's kind of your job, and how to motivate and inspire the team. And in that ways, it made my job a little bit easier, telling the guys we had unfinished business going into the NCAA tournament. Probably don't want to admit it, but like when you have a good season, and even though you lose in the conference championship, not the ends of the world, because in the back of your head, you always know that you have a second trophy that you can win. I mean, regardless, it stung a lot, but regardless of win or lose, we always stick to the process of reviewing the film, having collecting individual feedback from each player, meeting as a leadership group, addressing weaknesses in the next practice. And you just have to move on. You have to be mentally strong and start preparing for, in this case, it was Salem State, your next opponent. So yeah, it stung, but I suppose it wasn't end all be all, because we still had the NCAA tournament, luckily.
So in the NCAAs, if you were a betting man, if somebody would have said that collectively you and Tufts would score 9 goals in one game, would you have taken that? Because honestly, it was the one that you would have made a lot of money. You would have made a lot of money if you betted 9 goals.
Yeah.
I was seriously thinking that this was going to be a 0-0 game to the end. And
sure.
Right. Like I would have thought that they would have locked down, you guys would have locked down and just wait for that one opportunity. And instead that wasn't the case.
Yeah. Shows you how good both teams were on set pieces. Tufts scores a corner kick goal first half. We score a free kick goal first half. We score a corner kick goal to start the second half. Yeah, I think you could look at it two ways. Both teams were very good, or throughout the season, had a good record defensively, not conceding goals. But at the same time, both teams had already proven that they could score against each other. And whenever it's the third game, you have a really strong, or you should have a really strong understanding of the strengths, weaknesses, tendencies, key players of the opposition. So I think because both teams knew each other real well, both teams probably had a game plan of how they wanted to execute. And if you're able to execute your game plan, goals are certainly possible. But yeah, certainly, I suppose that's some sort of justification. But certainly the wildest soccer game I've been part of.
Oh my gosh. So I do have to ask, the game's at 5-2. This is my just an observation. Remember, I watch on video, so it's hard to really assess what's going on and get a feel for what's going on in the sidelines and whatnot. So it's 5-2, and you there's 30 minutes left, I think, maybe 25 minutes left, something like that. You at some point you seem to make a bunch of subs, and then Tufts gets into high gear and goes on that run to get to 5-4 with 20 minutes left. Did you? This might not be the right way to say it, but I'll just say it anyhow. So, did you think the game was in the bag at all, or were those subs part of a natural your decision that you're making during the game? I'm going to get these guys on because I need a different look or whatever, or was it just the fact, again, Tufts being outstanding that they are, that they figured out how to get to make the comeback happen? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I can whether you want to believe me or not, I can definitely let you know that I, for not 1 second, thought the game was in the bag. It's
yeah, I don't know if there's a better way to say
that. No. Yeah, I mean, Tufts, you're always on your toes against Tufts. And my rationale is, thought some of the guys out on the field looked tired the whole season. We relied on depth. Depth is what got us to that point. When guys are tired on the field and you've used subs all season, you're not going to not, at the most important time of the season, not use your subs when you use them every game before. Part of my thought process is, with 25 minutes left, if you can go 15 minutes not conceding, then the subs have done an excellent job. They've played their role, and your starters have gotten a breather, and now their starters with 10 minutes left can finish the game a little bit fresher. Obviously, that's not how it went. I think there's a couple individual errors. I think a couple of the subs, you could see nerves in the situation or the circumstances they found themselves in affected them. But nonetheless, great learning experience. And you'd like to think through coaching and through reflection, they won't be as nervous or panicky in that situation if we're lucky enough to be in there again in the future. But yeah, let's give Tufts a lot of credit. They're down 5-2, and they basically said we're going for it. Started playing direct, started sending guys more forward, started putting more balls in the box, and ask more questions of how we dealt with balls. So it's kind of a culmination of those things, I'd say.
So the games that I watch Tufts, I've always thought the danger of Tufts is they're a good team, but they have a switch. And there's the only way I could describe it, where when they need to and they need to get a goal, they're the one team that has that capacity that could turn that switch and go get a goal. Remarkable to me is seeing a team like that. And I thought that they would get a goal. I don't think I expected them to get back to the 5-4, which again was, just tell me how you were doing when they got the fourth goal. There's 20 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm looking at you. I don't know if it's the video, but I don't see any gray hairs. I thought that would have definitely. I mean, that's probably right. Like,
yeah,
probably one of the most harrowing last 20 minutes, right? Like, just the nature of the game too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I suppose when it went 5-4, me and our assistant Andrew were like, our best is ridiculous as this sounds. Our best defense is to get a 6 goal. We you try to keep playing your style. You don't want to hoof the ball and concede it. You want to defend by having the ball. And we still encouraged our guys to pass and try to create the moments of penetration that we had to get the 4th and 5th goal. If Tufts is going for it, then they're not going to have everyone back. And if you can win the ball, connect, find players above the ball and get runners in behind, there were still opportunities to be had. So I'd say with 7, 6, 5 minutes left, you bunker in, and when you do win the ball, you play the corners, try to manage the game in that fashion. But yeah, when it was 5-4 and there was still 18 or 15 minutes left, is we still wanted to score to increase the buffer, if you will.
Yeah, what a great game. I mean, it's just it's the second best game I watched all season. And just to your point about the nerves for the young guys, like there were elements of that game where that to me was a final, for
Hmm.
both teams, right? A final was on the line, and more so than the actual final from my perspective, but just the pace, and I mean it was relentless. So I totally, even if as a goalkeeper, if I would have hopped in that game, I think I would have been freaking out, right? Like I think that's a normal reaction. But so
Hmm.
so let's go to the to Amherst, because and then talk about the final. So you lose to them at home 2-0. Was there anything about that game that you sort of put in your back pocket, thinking that there's a chance that you would see them again, even if it was the NESCAC, um, some at some point in the NESCAC
Yeah.
tournament or NCAA's, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, there's for sure. Like, and I've said this since I've been at Con. Basically, if if you want to make a national championship, you're going to have to beat other NESCACs along the way. NESCAC schools don't really lose unless it's to another NESCAC school. So yeah, it's always in the back of your head that it's a very good chance that if your team gets hot and you start doing well, Amherst is a very good team, so there's always the likelihood that you play them down the road. I think in terms of what we learned, no, that game was fine margins. Amherst, this is regular season, scored on a corner kick. The man created separation, and our center back lost him. And then the biggest thing is, it's not about conceding. It's about your reaction, your togetherness, your resiliency when you do concede. Your reaction to adversity. And what killed us that game in the regular season was conceding less than a minute after that corner kick goal. So against a team like Amherst or Tufts or whoever, you can't put yourself in a 2-goal deficit. So fortunate enough in the national championship, lucky enough we were the first ones to score. I think that that certainly helped. And yeah.
So you go ahead, they score in the waning minute and a half, I seem to think. 2 minutes.
All right, national championship.
Yeah, national championship.
Yeah.
Which is always a huge letdown, right? Because everyone sees the clock, they know how close it is. What's your message to the team before the start of the overtime?
Forget it. You scored yesterday in overtime against Washington Lee. Screw it. Go do it again. And so it's the national championship overtime. This is the last time in your life that you should ever feel sorry for yourself. The game is still there to be won. I had a stern message for our center mid that fouled at the halfway line to give them the free kick. But yeah, refocus. You give them 1 or 2 tactical coaching points to really emphasize. Was Amherst tired? Yeah, I mean we were tired as well. But when the opposition is tired, for me at least, it's even more critical that you take care of the ball. Don't squander it in possession. Make the other team defend. Make the other team shift. And so use possession to create opportunities is probably what I told the team. But yeah, it certainly stung. But you have to be adamant to the guys that it's not the end of the world. The game is still there. Forget it. Good athletes have short-term memory. So.
All right. So you go. I'm a former goalkeeper, or well, I keep thinking that I'm going to get the call for a national team camp at
Mhm.
my youthful age. But so I was a goalkeeper, and you go to PKs, and to me, it's always a surprise to see that you put in a goalkeeper, freshman goalkeeper, to to do the round of PKs. Uh,
Mhm.
can, I mean, that takes stones, if you can excuse the expression, to do something like that. Unless obviously there's a reason for that. And I was just curious, was there a reason? I mean, is that his specialty? Because I think it was the low to the right where he one hand parries it outside of the post. I mean, that to me was the most spectacular save on a PK that I've seen in a long time. So just your
Yeah.
thinking around that, if you could.
Yeah. No, I think it's perfectly logical and reasonable for an outsider to think that's a wild card move by the coach. But certainly for me, as someone that speaks with and works with each of these guys on a daily basis, it's not that wild when he's the better one at PKs, and it was very evident throughout the weeks and weeks of postseason practicing PKs. We always practice peak as soon as you're in the conference tournament. At the end of every practice, you practice PKs, and yeah, Pete's exceptional. He's a very good shot stopper. To say that he's a PK specialist, I think that's a bit harsh or discrediting his other abilities, because he's a very good, well-rounded goalkeeper. But yeah, I think we got the players on board. Most important thing is we had Sam and the goalkeeper unit on board, and Pete had a lot of confidence after saving PKs in Salem State, and credit to our internal leadership, Lorenzo Bocchetti, Steve Jonas. They had really encouraging, positive messages for him going into the PKs. So yeah, for me, it was a relatively no-brainer, and I knew that he had the ability. I didn't, you never know if he can pull it off. PKs are a bit. There is a bit of luck involved for sure, but I did believe that he gave us the better chance.
It was it's a storybook ending, like it was great. I was so happy for him, right? Because
Yeah.
that's a big moment, right? And
Mm.
it's amazing too. He saved three, almost
Mhm.
saved two, and then almost a
I
third, or saved three.
believe he saved three.
Three, yeah. And the on the opposite side, the guys who took the PKs. I mean, they nailed them all, and that
Mhm.
just, again, just how it all happened was pretty remarkable. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so coach, look, I'm like I said, cognizant of your time, so I just, maybe we could just touch upon sort of your recruiting process and sort of what you're going through. And uh, the general question that I like to ask is, what do you look for? Do you look for players, or do you look for positions, right? Because to me, that's a very different exercise when you're looking for players, right? If
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. We have positional needs that we're very aware of. I think you have two types of positional needs. One that uh, comes to fruition when players graduate, and also positional needs based on making the roster more competitive and making that position deeper. Um, if you look at a program like Messiah, what the vast majority of college coaches learned from them is that you need two trustworthy competitive players in each position. That really makes a difference. And so, yeah, when it comes to recruiting, focusing on our needs, focusing on strengthening certain positions, but even if it's not a high priority position, if a national team kid fell from heaven, knocked on our door and said, "I want to come to Con," you take him as well. So yeah, we're just beginning the 2023s. More or less wrapped up the 2022 recruiting class, and yeah, as coaches know, recruiting never stops, and trying to find the next group of kids that can see themselves at Con.
So what sort of advice would you have for juniors, seniors, looking to get recruited at Connecticut, knowing that, right, it's probably hyper competitive, especially normally, but especially now where everybody's knocking on your door?
Yeah. The first advice is definitely you have to have academic integrity. Yeah, you have to first of all prove yourself in the classroom and want and show the ability to pursue a high academic education. Con is a wonderful place to get your degree, but certainly it's competitive in the admissions process. So having good grades is fundamental. Demonstrating the things that we look for in terms of our culture. Are you coachable? Are you selfless? Are you professional in how you treat yourself, how you communicate? Is there leadership potential in you? Do you push yourself? Professional in your work ethic. And then, yeah, I'm a big believer in recruiting character. You want to recruit character and talent. Like, recruiting someone based on talent should not be enough. They have to be able to fit into the culture of your team and provide value and growth to your team, not just on the field, but in different facets of life. So, we try to, and that's a difficult job as a coach, but we try to get to know the recruit and who they are and what they're like. And in return, we want them to get to know us, because recruiting is a two-way street. And they have to believe in us as coaches, and they have to want to work with us as coaches. But yeah, look for so academics, character, and when it comes to soccer, guys that have a high level of technical proficiency, the ability to play with both feet, confidence and desire to want the ball, to exemplify abilities that fit our system, and certainly two-way players that, defending, because nowadays everyone wants to look good and show off their skills. But, to be a successful college team, you need 11 guys on the field that are bought into defending. So certainly recruiting two-way players, guys that enjoy defending, and defending isn't a chore.
So best way to get in touch with you, Zoom, email, or?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Email, which is on the Con College website. And then essentially, as the recruiting process picks up or intensifies with individual recruits, phone calls start to take place and that sort of thing. But certainly for someone starting off, email for sure.
So, lastly, if you want, just feel free to send me your, whatever websites that you have, any contact information. I'll put them below in the description of when the video goes out. And
Okay.
yeah, and with that, I just want to thank you very much, Coach. Like, this was fantastic.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting. Really appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, hopefully we can see each other soon, and
Yeah.
we can, maybe do a second set of this, maybe just before preseason to see what your thinking is at that time. So,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
No,
Appreciate it.
yeah, equally very, very appreciated. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it for sure. Look forward to staying in touch.